Today's making sense question. I'm hiring remote teams. How do I set them up for payroll? Crazy day and age we live in post-COVID, where remote work is even so much more than it was beforehand. How do you set your employees up for payroll? Well, Accountfully, actually, we just hired a couple of remote employees in Pennsylvania and in Illinois. So, and a lot of our clients do have 20, 30 states where they have employees in as they've grown and just been hiring the best people, agnostic of location, which is super great for, I think, employers and employees, for everybody. How do you set them up for payroll? Number one, you need to have a great payroll provider. Gusto recommendation for that. Just use Gusto unless you have different needs that exist as a small business. Number two, when you add in that employee, basically it identifies a work location, a work state, right? Illinois, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, that work state comes up. Once it comes up, it then flags your payroll system to say, hey, you're in this state, as you have an employee that's working in the state, and that's what happens. It's where they work. You now need to set your company up for payroll as an employer, as a payroll account within the state. So then within that specific state, then Gusto will direct you to, like, hey, you need to create a Department of Revenue withholding tax account. Hey, you need to create an unemployment account. Hey, there's local taxes to be conscious of specifically within that state. So then within there, Gusto will kind of tell you what taxes or account numbers you're missing. And then you have to go to typically the state's websites and register, identify, your liability, your legal information, your tax ID, the type of business you're in. And then you'll get account number set up. And then at that point, you can enter them into Gusto, and then they will then, take out the employee or the taxes that's needed, charge the company, and then file and pay the taxes within the system. So that's how it works. So with the new day and age of Gusto and those related payroll providers, it really helps out and creates a very much more seamless process than it used to be. With that being said, there is some issues with setting up the actual accounts in the state that can be frustrating to non-bookkeepers, non-accountants, non-tax people. If you're in Gusto and you're having that problem, reach out to somebody. Or within Gusto, they actually have a service provider that they recently contracted with. I think it's called CorpNet, that actually can help set you up, kind of like an outsourced setup service within those states, which could be an option for you. At the end of the day, basically what you need to do is you need to use a great payroll provider, make sure that the employee's information and their work address is accurate based on where they'll be working from home or a remote office. And then within that state, you need to get registered for the specific tax accounts that are required. Remember, Florida does not have income tax, personal income tax. Well, the only one that you need to do in Florida is a unemployment account number. But in Pennsylvania, you have a unemployment, you have a withholding tax, plus you have local taxes to worry about. So each state is different. Gusto has basically a Bible / directory that you can go inside. And in this state, this is where you need to go, which is great. So not as kind of complex as it used to be, still complex, but in the day and age, it's getting better. Hope you learned a few things today. Thanks for listening to Making Sense.